Does it have $1 million vibe? Or...
With enough thrust, you can fly a brick.
Location, 1980 gallery.
In studio, podcast.
3, 2, 1. Hey guys, welcome. Are you gonna crack that? Go ahead. 3, 2, 1. Hey guys, welcome back to Location 1980's Art Podcast. I'm your host Jesse Fortune, my co-host Eric Ringman.
Good evening.
And our special guest Napa.
Hello.
Would you like to say your full name?
My full name is Natasha Patel for the record.
And how'd you get the nickname Napa?
Napa stands for Natasha and Patel put together, like J-Lo.
Perfect.
Napa, yeah.
And you're going with that?
Yep, that's my studio name. Yep.
Love it. How do they get a hold of you? And like I see your artwork, Instagram or anything like that.
Oh, Napa Go-Go. So my Instagram handle is Napa Go-Go. And there's a story behind the Go-Go too. So one of my favorite movie producers of all time, directors, is Quentin Tarantino. And we're now 17 years old. Kill Bill was my favorite movie.
Yes.
And do you remember that little psycho Asian girl named Go-Go? And she had like, what is that weapon called? Like
It's like a mace, but it's on a chain.
It's on a chain. So it was
Like
crazy.
a mace whip.
Yeah.
Exactly. So anyway,
Is
that
that a
was
poi?
like,
What?
Is it a poi?
No.
Because I've seen people dance with.
it's got
that-
blades on it too.
Yeah, well, it's
a
like
killer
it's
poi.
like a weaponized version of a thing I've seen people dance with, where the end of it's on fire, and
my
they
God.
swing it around as an artistic dance. But anyhow,
She was
It
go-go?
is. So she was Go-Go, and Napa Go just had a good ring to it. That's my personal Instagram handle. So I'm like, you know what? We're gonna businessize this bitch.
Monetize.
Yep.
Shout out to Tarantino.
You go.
Also a big Tarantino fan and Kill Bill fan.
my favorite one of his films.
Oh, it's the best. Yeah.
Napa is one of our current studio artists here at Location 1980, which we do house. We're sitting in the middle of the Art of Wax, which is in the middle of our gallery space. Also home of Napa Studio. During the pandemic, we couldn't really do art shows at first, and I was like sweating bullets because I was like, well, everybody's going to leave. I mean, there's not going to be any that comes to do art. Opposite effect happened, and we had a big room that we couldn't use for anything. So I turned it into, I think there was 4 studios in here at one time, and the studio you're currently in, I think Cami got it first. I'm pretty sure. And I was about to leave to Europe, I think like the day before she rented it. And I was like, well, I'll roll some walls together. We have rolling walls. Shout out to Wheels Furniture, Wheels on all furniture. I slapped some walls together. She said, I'll take it. The rest is history. Since then, we've had at least, I think, 4 artists in there. I'm drawing a blank. Who is the headless Barbie? Marianne. Yeah, she was great.
Marion Vale.
What happened to Marianne? Yeah, Marianne Vale. She crushed it. Everybody in the studios had a good run at 1980, and currently you're on a similar run, making a bunch of cool art. We are in some different kind of a garb because you are Indian, right?
Yes, that I am. Yes.
And you make some Indian art as well.
Very true. Yes.
And I'm not sure what Eric's got on. Is this also Indian?
Eric is wearing formal attire, traditionally worn to Indian weddings.
Is it a kurta pajama?
I'm not sure what the formal name is, but that definitely is formal wear. So it's like a wedding outfit.
All right. Well, I'd love to look good for the show and just provide all those audio-only listeners more reasons to finally tune in.
Yeah, it's green. It looks fantastic. Well, thanks for clearing that up for us. The reason I mention it is because since you've been here, you had a definite aesthetic, and it's mostly on the abstract side. But recently, you got to go to India. Now, was this your first time going to India?
Yeah, so beginning of this year, January and February, I went to India for 2 months, and I hadn't been before that for 22 years.
And before you tell us about that, I just want to say, as a gallerist and director of the art gallery, or I get to pick who comes here. Essentially, sometimes it's mostly because I like the work. I liked your work ethic and your business acumen when you applied it to art, but I also liked your aesthetic. And then when you got back from India, I noticed the immediate change of aesthetic in a good way, in a different way, and it was just obvious and it was cool. And I'd like you to tell us more about your trip and why that is.
Yeah, so Jesse was just talking about my aesthetic pre-India. So my two art forms I would say would be pre-India and post-India, right? So it's like before Christ. What is it? After Christ? We'll call it.
I think it's something Latin, ad dominum or something.
Is that what I mean?
Yeah, AD is something
AD
Latin.
BC. So
Yeah, 2 periods.
Exactly.
After the death of Christ.
Exactly. So before India,
Still no.
when I first met Jesse, my aesthetic would be abstract. So I worked with a lot of ink and resins. And post India, the main reason I went to India was one, to get back in touch with my roots, to see family I hadn't seen in 22 years. I had an entire side of first cousins, uncles, aunts that I haven't seen. And the third most important reason was to get inspiration for my next level abstract art. So I liked the work I was doing before, but for me personally, deep down, it felt really uninspired. Like, it was pretty enough, but there was no real style that you could tie to me, right? I did fluid art before, which is really pretty. It was well done, but how did I differentiate that kind of work to me and my name and my brand? So that was the core root of why I went to India. So I went to India, had an amazing time. Soul searching, exactly. Going into my 34th year, I was there for my birthday for 2 months, and, got in touch with their roots, had a lot of different perceptions come up in worldviews. The whole one of the themes I explored was West versus East, right? So West being a modernized American girl, a single woman, and then bring that mentality to India, where women literally are punished for merely existing. So having to deal with that, and am I allowed to curse on here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god. So
Be
excuse
natural.
my language, but I literally couldn't shit without a chaperone because I was there on my own. So I was under
Wow.
the protection of family, older family members, cousins who were actually from India. I remember that first week they wouldn't even let me. My uncle wouldn't even let me walk down the street without one of my older cousins being with me.
Now, is this in a metro, or is it kind of out in the countryside?
It's in one of the main cities. So where my family's from, my last name is Patel, so I'm Gujarati. So I'm in Gujarat. So that's north. Yeah, north.
India's
West,
massive.
northwest, yeah.
And there's probably 4 cultures just in that region.
And get this, Gujarat's the dry state too. So I was coming there and expecting something, but then dealing with something completely different. So no alcohol there. That's a whole other story we'll probably get to. But I just lost my train of thought. Where was I going?
You were just
The
saying
comparison.
about East and West.
East and West, yes.
And then it hit you in the face.
It hit
upon
me in the
arrival.
face. Oh my god! So
That's culture shock.
Culture
essentially.
shock for sure. East versus West. Me coming there with my modern American ideology, thinking I could survive there because I've traveled internationally by myself before. I've been to China by myself, Hong Kong by myself, but in reality, let's look at the statistics, right? Statistically, India is very dangerous for women and continues to be so. So I get the concern. After I came back from India after that trip, my eyes were definitely open, perceptions were changed.
Is that dangerous for kidnapping and stuff, or is
Kidnapping,
it
there's
just
a lot of raping going on in India, especially for women. Very hardcore domestic violence against women. So
and not to. I guess I should just say you strike me as coming from at least a middle class or upper middle class background.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that translates to your family over there. Is this like every segment of society problem, or is it you weren't immune to it? Obviously, if your uncle's worried about walking down the street. So it doesn't really matter what part of the city you're in or what city you're in.
It doesn't matter. It happens on the city trains. It happens, in hospitals. The recent story. I don't know if you guys read that. There's a doctor in India. She was in a hospital. She was sleeping in the hospital, supposedly a safe space, and she was gang raped and brutalized and murdered. And that was the latest story.
Not even a patient. She was a doctor.
She was a doctor. She's a highly educated woman. And education doesn't even protect the women there. So this is the latest stand in India that's blowing up the new generations, saying, it doesn't matter how educated we are when the men hate us. And I felt that for forefront and center there. Women are punished for merely existing.
Wow.
So is there a movement, or is there a Me Too or a raise your fist hashtag or something that you'd like to say, or I don't know, is it just a social consciousness, a shift between
It's a shift. You can see
women?
the shift going for sure. Yeah.
Well, maybe us talking about that can shed some light on that too. On a lighter note, though, after you got through your culture shock, and then you were like, I'm here, I'm doing it, came here for a reason.
Yeah.
What did you look forward to doing? What kind of activity? Was it just going to eat? Was it
Oh man, it was the food. Food for sure was amazing. So my family's mostly vegetarian, so I stuck to mostly vegetarian. Street food was amazing, even though it's real nasty and unhygienic the way these dudes prepare it. But it's really good. It's worth every single dirty finger in your street food, you know. But the other thing I was really excited for was the tours, so like the historical walks. So we did a couple of historical city walks, which was awesome.
The stuff is old there.
Old. When you think of India, right? When you think of India, it's one of the most ancient civilizations. It's, I think, one of the oldest religions in the world, too. It's the home of Hinduism. So I did tons of temple tours, a lot of old school palaces. And just the architecture is one of the things that really struck me there. And just the way the architecture was built, it's beautiful, intricate sculptural carvings on the side of these walls. And that was inspiration that I found myself pulling into my new body of work. But besides that, it's also the stone structures and kind of the natural elements. So there's a couple of different types of architecture in India. There's marble architecture, which is usually like Jain temples, and it's literally slabs of white marble that these dudes from thousands of years ago just chisel down with a hammer and chisel, and then they just use water to shape it. So it's super intricate, super symmetrical, really beautiful.
You're talking full sculptural, like relief,
the entire
mega
wall.
3D.
Yeah, and it's the whole facade. It's gates, like really intricate, beautiful gates that encompass the gods within, or multiple gods. It's the outside of the walls where it's just like characters and lotus motifs and floral motifs and like gate motifs. It's gorgeous. So that was one of the big inspirations for me. And then going on these architectural tours, I realized just how culturally rich India actually is. And before India, was established as its own independent country, people were trying to fight for control, right? So you have British influences, and you clearly see that in some of the architecture. You have Chinese influences. So you have Indo-Chinese architecture in the main cities like Mumbai. You have Islamic architecture, Indo-Islamic architecture, which is Islamic and Indian architecture elements pulled together. So just a fusion of diversity, which is nice to see. And yeah, it's just nice to see in ancient culture, because especially when a lot of people just hate each other for existing and being different, you can really see, and that's one of the one things I love about being an artist is different perspectives and worldviews can really fuse and come together to create something beautiful and brand new.
For sure. We just talked to one of our previous guests, Rishi, and then they was saying the same thing regarding music. Mm-hmm. In his show, Common Threads, how that kind of connected all of us together. I saw something similar when I was in Spain with the, specifically, I can't remember which city in Andalusia, but there was a particular temple that had very Moorish influence, Islamic influence, but then also Roman. So it was just wow, because they kind of like respected the architecture. So it might have been Granada. They respected the previous architecture so much that it was just like this forced collab almost, and it's just really cool anyway. It's like they didn't go in on it together, but they're like, that was dope. And so they just let it ride, even though like, oh, we're taking over now, but don't tear that down. That's cool. God. Yeah, which is neat. And it sounds like in your case, I guess the older the civilization or the societies, the more chances of that happening throughout the years. So you get to see it.
You get to see it exactly from the different eras, right? So you have, which is so cool. We did a walking tour, and in Ahmedabad, so in Gujarat, and there was literally like one building that's Indo-Chinese right next to one that's Indo-Spanish. And you see the fusion just come together. So it's different periods of when these other countries came and occupied India for a little bit.
Are these separated by like centuries, probably, right?
Yeah, it's insane. But they're right next to each other, and you're walking down, and then there's like an elephant like shitting right in the same corridor. It's just crazy.
Did you get to ride an elephant? I'm sure everybody asked.
No, I have videos though, because usually Indians have weddings during the same auspicious time. So you have like a bunch of horses getting decked out in flowers, and camels and elephants like in the same area walking around, just getting prepared for wedding season.
I'm just curious because I've heard some stuff about Africa, like from people that traveled. Like if you're a white dude in some African villages, they'll be like, "You're getting married before you leave." You're like, "Wait, what?" And then they'll be like serious, like, "This is my daughter's," like, "Which one do you want?" or whatever. And like, "Yo, bro, I didn't really come to the village to get married today." I'm just curious because your family sounds like it's traditional and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Once they're over there, like, "Oh, you're single? We got somebody for you. Did they try to shoehorn you into some
It's
situation?
so funny because my mom warned me that would happen. But because, and I think that being American went against me in my favor because I can only speak English there. So everyone in India, they speak English everywhere I went, but they learned 3 to 4 languages. So English is one of the languages they speak. They speak Hindi as well, which is the national language. They speak Gujarati, which is the state language, and then like 2 to 3 other languages because that's just how they were brought up, raised.
And they speak English like British English.
They speak like Indian English. So it's kind of British English, but with an Indian accent. But they speak English very well. Yeah. So they actually didn't try to set me up at all because I think they're like, you're too American. Yeah. And I'm too modern.
She's too far gone.
It's too late.
Yeah. And over there, families live in joint families, right? So the second part of my trip, I went to my niece's wedding.
Well, explain, because I don't know what a joint family is.
So a joint family is when basically the woman gets married to the male and moves away from her family, moves in with the husband and his parents in their house. So it's like generations married into one family with the mom and dad and their kids, their sons and their sons and their new wives living all in the same house, and it's up to the wives. Yeah, and it's up to the wives, and this is why me being American born or married into an Indian family wouldn't vibe because the girls there are expected to take care of not only the husband but the husband's parents as well.
Oh man!
So they're basically like top tier servant, like head of the household. So they're managing the cooks, the servants. They're making sure all the guests are fed properly, and that's another cultural shock.
So while they said it's too late for you and you're hamstrung by your Americanness, you're also like, no, to the hell.
You're also like, yes, I am.
I love it. Hell to the no. That's great. But it's still, it's kind of cool. It's like pressure off. You don't have to dodge that bullet while you're there. So you just get to have fun and check it out. And I think you told me, did you do a workshop or some kind of learning of the arts?
Yeah. So in Mumbai, I actually hired a private tutor who taught me traditional Pichwai painting. So it's like miniature painting with really fine details, and it usually depicts Krishna, the god Krishna, as one of the main motifs and characters. So I did that like an accelerated program for about a week and a half before I flew back to Gujarat. And that was one of the things I really wanted to do, and we were pressed for time. But that ended up being really cool. But the tutor, because I was an accelerated program, I did 2 classes a day for like 5 to 6 days of the week for 2 weeks. And I was in the class with kids of all ages and then adults as well, because I was in every single class that she had. And it was funny because this is another East versus West cultural thing. The way they teach there is so hilarious because they're not talking about, oh, it's okay, you did this wrong. She's literally like, you're showing her your work for the day and she's shaming you like, why did you do it this way? Go do it again. And at the end of those like mini corrections period, we would sit down and the kids, like, I never said a word to these kids, but then I would pat them on the back because they're crying because the teacher made them cry.
Oh, the critique, yeah.
They critique harsh. They give no shits. Indian teachers give no shits. So,
yes,
yeah.
I like it. I kind of dig that. That's fun. I think we need a little more of that, and especially in art schools over here, I would say.
Do you think that breeds a certain sense of humor in the culture there?
And alcoholism, I'm sure.
Did you find, since it's a dry state, that people were sneaking a nip or two in the back alley or whatever?
We went to at least 4 to 5 underground parties at like cousins' houses and stuff, but they're so reserved with their pours. So they would like pour, literally measure to the T, this is 1 ounce, this is 1 shot. And then take that. Yeah, exactly.
Like
come on, America, come on, bring it.
I know.
What you got?
Exactly.
Oh, that's cool. So did that kind of round out your experience? You got to see the friends and family, architectural and historical tours, and also do an accelerated workshop. Was there anything else you're leaving out as far as your true inspiration before you came back?
Yeah, one of the other things, just walking through the street markets. And you were there today, Eric, right? Was that today when you were picking out your Indian clothes?
In India?
I was like, you know something I don't, honey. Okay, no. I was picking out the clothes probably. It was only a couple days ago, though, yeah.
Oh, in Cerritos. So that's Little India here in SoCal. But when you walked into Loveleen, right? So Loveleen is the sorry place we're talking about. Just the...
Shout out to Loveleen.
Shout out to Loveleen.
Sorry Palace. Exactly.
There's just the smell. One of the things you notice is the smell of the textiles there?
Not overpoweringly.
Not overpowering, but probably when like there's a certain smell that Indian textiles have. That's one of them. And I remember going there, and that was the one thing I was excited to smell again. It's a certain like musk. It just smells really good. And then the way they organize everything, it's like bookshelf style. And they're just like whipping these outfits out. And like, okay, what about this? And showing you really fast. It's the whole experience of shopping.
Yeah.
They probably did that with you.
Yeah, they're speedy. She seems to know where everything is and then is like jumping to the next choice before my brain has even registered. Like my eyeballs have seen it and the data hasn't gotten through my eyes to my brain yet. And she's already 3 more outfits down the road. Like, and what about this one?
Like, great, I'll take one of each. I'm going to assume that while you're shopping, you bought some things.
Oh, absolutely. But back to this experience of the street marketplaces and the sari palaces, right? So that's one of the things, it's the colors. Like Eric for those of you who are listening, Eric is wearing a really rich emerald green color. So one of the things that really struck me visually was the different textiles in India. And we tend to, when you think of Indian design and architecture and textiles and fashion and jewelry, you think really high-end and luxurious because that's what it is. We have some of the most stunning design in the world. Shout out to India in that aspect. And one of the things that really struck me was the colors. So jewelry is really big there. Jewel tones is really big there. So Eric is wearing this really striking emerald green color. And just imagine like these gorgeous, rich jewel tones. You have your navy blues, you have your emerald greens, you have your golds and yellows, you have your fuchsias, your amethyst colors, your teals, exactly, your rubies, your garnets, all awash like just on sun-kissed golden skin, like different variations of brown skin. So that was the inspiration for the color palette I brought back to my new work here in the studio.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So now you're back, you're fully inspired. And you went to work right away because I think the first couple things you made was like obvious, like bang.
That's so funny because I feel like I had a percolation period for like 3 to 4 months where I was kind of like the post-travel blues, right?
Yeah.
And everything just kind of had to sit. And I was like sketching things out. And I have like a Procreate file in my iPad where I was doing some sketches, but it wasn't quite panning out. And then I started with watercolors. So I'm like, okay, I had a concept in my head. I wanted to combine like these architectural patterns with the colored textiles of the saris that I like, to combine them with the neutrals of the architecture. So the natural stones. So you have your like white marbles and your sandstone, your neutral brown colors, the brown color of the skin, but I didn't know how that would play out. And then I also wanted to enhance my existing art style, which was the abstract fluid art, the kind of the fluid. Yes, fluid. Apologies. So fluid work. So it's like the really detailed marble, like ink work that I was previously doing, but I wanted to contain that in a more structured way with these new Indian inspirations. So I had to percolate for a while. Wasn't quite getting together.
Was watercolor, is that a new medium for you at this time?
Acrylic ink, yeah, it actually was. Yeah. Before I was using alcohol ink.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll apologize because like it seemed like in my brain it must have fast forwarded because it was like you were back and percolating, and then it's just because
I was percolating hard, bro.
The next thing I saw you make kind of jumped out at me as obviously influenced by your work. I just kind of like, oh, she's back, and the next day you made something beautiful.
Yeah, the BC AD split was real evident to the viewership.
Yeah, but it obviously didn't happen right when you got back. So after you did construct these, it was kind of a method of inspiration into your madness or method of madness, and you did contain it. So how would you describe it now? Like, because it seems like you developed a palette that's strong, and then the architecture is evident. So what are the first couple of pieces you've made? Because you have one in the show, do you?
I have one in the show, yeah, right over there. Yeah. So that was me playing with more colored ones. When I first started, I have these square pieces, 24 by 24, and I just focused in on my favorite tile patterns I saw in some of my favorite architectural pictures. So I'm like, okay, let's see if I can recreate this in my style. So I didn't know how it would come together, but I'm like, okay, let's contain the kind of marbly textures of my ink painting within the actual patterns. So then that was the starting point.
Because it does look, the more I look at it right now, it does look 3D, even though it's just a canvas painting.
Yeah, and the 3D is the homage to the architectural, right? The sculptural. So you have sculpture in a wall, it's obviously not flat, it's 3D, yeah.
Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done. So do you find now that you, I always call it another one of our artist friends, Scott. Are you familiar with Scott Ludwig? Will be a guest coming up here shortly on the podcast. We often talk about you're essentially developing your own language, and once you kind of discover the language, then you're just being more and more fluid at that language. And because it's your style, it's your language, no one can kind of tell you how fast it's going to go. Sometimes it might take a year or two before you develop it. It seems like you get a handle on this pretty quick. Now that would you say you're learning your own language, that thing you were looking before you went, like that distinct, it's abstract, but now it resonates with you in particular. Do you think you found that voice, and how do you think you go forward with that from here?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think my style is finally starting to emerge, and that was the biggest point of insecurity for me, because I think one of the biggest insecurities for artists in general, if they don't have a distinct style that's emerged yet, right? So that was my anxiety producing thing that would always gave me tickled me in the back of the head and was like, your art's good, but how can you tell that it's your work versus all the other fluid artists out there?
That's a great question, and I'm gonna kind of take this back to that mean teacher over there. So culturally, you had it in yourself to even before you went over there, it was already in you to it's not good enough, or you're kind of cracking your own whip, and then you met her in person. This is how hard I need to be on myself.
Oh, that's just being brown, being raised brown in general.
Well, I'm great. I'm glad that because it's cool that it came out in such a way that you were able to meld all these concepts together, and it gives you now your insecurity somewhat solved, and it's kind of nice. I mean, I've benefited from having my own style, like they call fortunism. And then once I did it, I found that I'm not even handcuffed to what it used to be. It's just that I'm so comfortable in what I make is for this reason, to meet this end, and during this point of inspiration, that's my fortune, that's my style. And the people that used to like the old style, sorry about it, this is my new version of that style. But I've gone away from the post school. When I moved to California, same thing. I was I know I can paint landscapes, but anybody can paint landscapes.
Exactly.
And the fluid art is really big ever since TikTok or any kind of Instagram.
During the pandemic,
everybody's fluid art, and you taught workshops here in fluid art, and I can see your point, because again, palette was great, materials are good, and the work was tight. And even when you did your workshops to teach your students, they all crushed it.
Oh, they
But
loved
if I were to come here and say, pick her work from the student's work, or that student's work from that student's work, I wouldn't be able to do it. No. Maybe the color palette choices. No. Eric, you participated in some of Napa's workshops as well. But I see your point, and it's really, that's a nice bridge to cross as an artist, where when you get to that level, where you've done it enough to where you're rewarding yourself for being brave enough to, all right, next level.
Yeah.
Well, just to stick around, persevere long enough to even get to the point of asking that question.
It is a breaking point for a lot of artists, because also if you mix in, and I've also been privy to your business minded aspects into your art, and you mentioned your brand specifically. It seems a very polished concept, and you're not unaware of this is an art brand, and I think that's one of the things too that makes you stand out, and not just your aesthetic, but the way you approach how to do it. We definitely jumped right into the modern day, and including being in the show of Art of Wax, because yours, it's funny. I guess yours would be an album cover to one of the artists that Rishi mentioned earlier that I had no idea who he was talking about. He mentioned several Indian inspirations. He went on a run, and me and Eric were
I love it. Did he mention Ravi Shankar? Because that was my
Absolutely.
pseudo inspiration for that.
Ravi Shankar changed his life. Yeah, he was all about that.
That's great. So that was, we're kind of modern now, caught up to the storyline, but growing up, did you grow up in California?
I did. Anaheim, born and raised.
Okay, shout out to Anaheim.
You said a line a little bit ago, and we're talking about the teacher, and you're like, oh, it's just about being raised brown.
Oh, totally.
Was there a sort of be a doctor, lawyer kind of energy in your upbringing?
Definitely, and this ties perfectly into my new body of work now.
Because I want to know.
Yeah.
Well, that's even a third act now. Because I want to know how you went from, like really young to wherever you got before you were doing art to what pivoted you into doing art, and then this new thing you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Did you do art when you were a child at all?
So this is one of the rare things growing up in a Brown family. So my mom actually was a self-taught oil painter. So she does fantastic still life work. She used to record all the VHSs with Bob Ross videos and watch them in our garage. We had a garage TV. And, she was basically right, more fancy.
Let's go.
And so she would just lock herself in the garage for a few hours every single day, away from 3 kids. So I'm one of 3. I'm the youngest of 3. So my dad was working 7 days a week.
And your siblings are both brothers or
older brother and older sister, and they're both here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in SoCal.
So he's working to pay for everything. Your mom's painting in the garage.
Exactly. My dad is working 7 days a week. So I think that's one of the first instances of what I observed on what it means to be a hardworking American for the American dream, right? And now I look at it now and I realize that's the immigrant American dream, right? But,
similar, I guess. So your parents weren't raised here then?
No, they're born in India.
That's a pretty good distinction. I briefly mentioned that when he was on here, that he was first American in his family. Or whatever.
Yeah, first generation American born. Yep.
Sweet.
Yep.
Well, it sounds like you're observing, in retrospect, he had more of a employee path,
so he was a
and you
small
have more of a owner kind of vision now for how you're structuring your art as business and brand.
So my dad is working so hard because he left the typical salary job and opened up a small business. So he was working so hard because he had so much at stake, right? He had a family to raise. My mom wasn't working. She was at home. Well, she was working as in raising 3 children on her own, right?
It's work.
Because that is absolute work. And my dad was making the money.
What was he doing?
He was a small business owner and he was an electrical engineer. So he actually got one of the first visas back in the model minority era in the 60s to come over here and bring his engineering knowledge to South Dakota. I remember we have the newspaper clipping. It was him and 3 other Indian students in the newspaper.
They call that when a brain power dude.
Brain drain?
Yeah, brain drain.
Brain
so he was like reverse brain drain.
Yeah.
He brought the brains.
I think that was after the war
America.
and all the Germans came over here.
Okay.
We'd hired him into NASA, so Germany had its brain drain.
Exactly.
So he got to come.
He got
Russia's
to come here
having it
on
right
a
now.
special visa because he's brown and smart and we wanted his knowledge.
Yes.
And so he opened up his own technician company. So he had a little team of employees forever, his entire duration of his business career. And he would fix up machines, copiers, like toner, computers, old school phones, all that stuff. It was really cool.
That's did you get to go ever with your dad to work?
Oh, all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. And he used to have a little candy station in the front. My brother and I, when he wasn't looking, would go and steal candy from our dad.
I think he probably knew.
Yeah, he definitely knew.
That's great. So were you an artist then, or did you get to do did your mom say, "Hey, sit down, I'll show you how to do this"?
Oh, yeah.
Or sometimes when your parents are doing art, that's the last thing you want to do, or they're like, "You're going to play soccer" or whatever. What was that like?
So my mom, she was self-taught, as I said. So that was her kind of escape from raising 3 children on her own, right? It was her own personal thing. She never monetized it. My dad would always tell her she can't be an artist because that's just what they knew. It's super taboo, right? You don't become an artist as a brown person who came to this country. Like he was like, that's your hobby and that's it. So that's what she always believed, right? And so she would put us in art classes when we were younger. My brother and sister got most of the art classes. I think I got 1 because I was the 3rd one. At that point, everyone was tired.
They're over it.
Yeah, everyone was over it. So I did a little painting here and there, and then I self-taught myself how to draw graphite portraits when I was like 16 or 17 for a brief period. And then I went to college and didn't paint for like 10, 15 years. And I remember during that period, my anxiety went up tenfold, but I didn't know at the time it's because I had no creative outlet, right?
What were you studying?
Environmental science. Yeah, with a minor in atmospheric and oceanic sciences. And I actually wanted to get my master's in meteorology and become a climatologist. That may come back at some point.
Is that like a weather chick?
Yeah.
Nice.
Or a hurricane hunter, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Something like that.
Oh,
I can see
Twisters? You could have been in Twisters.
I love
We
that
still
movie.
could do it. It was great. I was surprised.
That movie's awesome.
I thought it was killer. It was way more fun than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So while you're going to school, you're going to graduate with said degree.
Yeah.
Did you?
I graduated with environmental science, and I ended up working the typical just like get a job route. So I worked for a solar energy startup company for 9 years. So we worked on large scale affordable housing projects, bringing solar and battery storage to these projects. I did that for 9 years. Pre-Tesla, yep. This is before Tesla came in. Towards the end of that 9 years, Tesla started coming on the market. And then, it was still a startup, so I wanted more money. That ambition, kind of brown daughter ambition, kicked in. I'm like, I need more money. I want a higher title. So I got headhunted actually into the cannabis space for a brief stint. So I worked for a vertical racking company out in Riverside, and it was really toxic. Really toxic. Toxic bro mentality, just horrible.
I thought you were talking like chemicals in the plants.
So culturally...
Toxic mentally, culturally toxic.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Culturally toxic, horrible work environment, just bad culture all around.
Does this speak to Eric's question earlier about how you may have pivoted towards the arts?
Oh yes, I'm getting there.
Okay.
So right during when I accepted that job, it was during COVID year, and you mentioned, fluid art became really popular during COVID quarantine. That's exactly how I picked it up again. And we were stuck inside. I was watching like TikTok, Instagram videos of just people pouring paint and resin. And that's when the resin wood craze became super predominant.
Like the ones right behind you? For those of you listening, there's two giant resin pieces right behind you.
Yeah.
Well, they did those tables that look like a lake
the river
and
tables,
stuff like that.
the river tables, the epoxy resin river tables. So I was like obsessed. I'm like, I gotta try this. And everyone's stuck indoors anyway. So then I looked up an acrylic. I'm like, okay, I looked up epoxy, realized it's toxic death sludge.
I'm also going to say this while we're talking about it. If you are an artist and you want to mess around or try this, please actually take the time to wear a mask and gloves, because a lot of times people think, I'll just do it once. Mm-hmm. It's not going to hurt, or I'm outside, or whatever it is. Screw that. Wear your protective goggles.
Yeah, read the SDS.
Do all this
read the
stuff.
back of the box.
It is gnarly, and I used to work with some of the stuff, and I got away with it. I got away from it pretty quick for that reason. It's like, man, I don't want to do a straight up Breaking Bad scene every time I'm gonna make a painting or whatever.
Exactly.
But the allure of it. So you're watching that.
It looks
through
pretty.
Through an app. You're like, oh, it's just quick and it's time lapse. It's just like ching, and then the painting's done.
And that's the reason they were making those videos, is because they show up so well on YouTube.
Yeah, and a lot of times
no one's wearing masks or PPE.
Yeah, I did a lot of times the personal protection.
Yeah, exactly.
Was that personal protection?
Equipment, yeah.
I love it. Yeah, shout out to being safe while you're making art and being creative. In addition, like, you can't smell the fumes while you're watching on TikTok. You can't see the hundreds of pieces that get ruined because the temperature wasn't right, or got dusty or bubbly, or like, F this. Somebody knocked it off the table and stuck face first.
A fly landed in it.
Any number of things I may or may not have done myself, or watch other artists do right in front of me.
A millipede crawled onto it.
A millipede.
Like, leave it. It's so cool. And then now that millipede had to die for your art.
Exactly.
So you dabbled.
I dabbled.
But it brought you back in, which is good.
Yeah. So
sorry, I had to go on a rant about being
No, that was great, because I'm passionate about that too. So the point of that was the PPE was, I read about being a science background. I was like, what is epoxy resin? And I was like, oh, I don't want any of that. No. So I'm like, oh, it's kind of similar, but it won't kill me long term. So that was when I found acrylic pouring, basic, safe, level 1, right? Level 1 of fluid art. So I fell into YouTube black hole, and then I was like, I gotta try this. So that's kind of, I started Instagram at that time, and I was still working.
What surprising number of cars to see here. Oh, shit. Oh, sorry,
Say it again.
So acrylic pouring was basically like level 1 version, right? So I was watching YouTube videos, fell in a black hole. I'm like, okay, I gotta do this. So I started Instagram at the time. It was during quarantine, and I became obsessed. I'm like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever. Yeah. I just started posting, Instagram as a more like a diary, like visual diary. And people just started DMing me, and they're like, oh man, is this available? And at the time I had a full-time job, right? So I wasn't thinking anything of it. And, so that was like a fun little side income. And then I got that cannabis job. And towards the end of the cannabis job, I was just mentally drained. so burnt out, was in a toxic cultural work environment, and my mentor at the time was like, you should just become an artist. I'm like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Being a brown daughter, right? You don't do that. I had everything. I had the title, I had the salary, I was a director at 31, you know, I checked off all the boxes. So
I love how it's a list of complaints, and then she's like, I had everything.
yeah. Exactly. I had everything, and I was more miserable than I've ever been in my life, right? So obviously there was a disconnect somewhere.
Was your mentor your dad too?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought they seemed like similar.
Oh my god, no. Well, yeah, the boxes were from the family, though.
Oh, okay.
Like, you know, the list of check boxes, that's definitely generational, that's passed on. My sister did all that, you know. So then I was following in her footsteps, and I was like, checked off most of the boxes. I'm like, there's something not right, because I don't feel happy at all. Like, I wasn't happy at all. I stopped painting again, and my mentor at the time was like, you need to just quit and become an artist. And I was like, that again, the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Brown daughters don't do this. They don't quit their steady jobs to become an artist, like do something as risky as that, right? So fast forward 3 years later, and here I am, artist in a studio in Costa Mesa.
Yes, love it. Doing very well and making cool work. I mentioned before, since you've been here, you grab the reins. I often, was kind of like the ringleader around here, encourage people, like, you have a studio here, you also have access to a lot of space. We also have tables, chairs. We have a nice following of people who want to buy art or do art also. I encourage everyone to try, maybe like think of an idea to do a workshop. And you were one of the artists that didn't hesitate. And not only that, you thought of the workshop and you crafted it very well, and did several since then. And they were super fun. I've taken it. I think, did you bring your mom to one of those?
Yeah, there was the Mother's Day one.
We did with flowers, and we did on the patio. That was cute. And that was super fun.
I got some paintings from that. She's got hers out at the Palm Springs place.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, super fun. So I want to say thanks for bringing your energy and helping share your recently found talents in a particular medium. You're level 1 and maybe level 2. I'm not sure, but whatever it was cool. I love it. And you did it. And most recently you switched it though. What was it called, and how recent was that?
Yeah, so that was the Acrylic Ink 101 workshop. We did that September. It was September, so it was last month. It was really well. That was my first sold out workshop, which was really fun. We even had a baby there, and I think the baby was the best one.
The baby was cool. She was going after it.
She was dialed in, focused.
None of us are parents, and so when we say baby, she might have been maybe a toddler.
She was I think she was like 16 months or something. Almost.
She had hands.
She had one. She was one, I think.
Yeah, she was standing up.
But no mouth yet, right?
I don't know. She was getting it.
Like
that's
a
baby. That's a baby.
That's a baby.
Yeah,
that's a baby.
One of those babies. Yeah, one of the babies is here. Tell us about your audience. You had actually, because you were sold out, you had like a nice variance of participants. How do you think that came to be? Was it people that had taken a previous workshop, or was it people that saw you on Instagram, or they know you from some other walk of life?
So this has been one of the biggest lessons as an artist, because first and foremost, an artist is a business owner, and in order to get your business out there, you have to network and meet people. So actually a lot of those people, just the back table, there's a group of guys. One of them was my old interns back in Solar, so he brought his gang. And everyone else is just people I met through organic networking in Costa Mesa, Orange County, and Irvine, and just kept that relationship going. So
when you say organic, you saying like you're in line at a coffee place even, and you like talk to the person instead of just, hey, thanks for the latte and leave. Or is it more targeted
networking events, like happy hour events?
Okay.
Yeah, specifically for business professionals.
And how are you finding those?
Honestly, Meetup. We're on Meetup too. Our workshops are on Meetup.
Shout out to Meetup, location 1980 / figure drawing. But also, Meetup kind of sucks when it comes to sending images. So I'm going to give them props and also demerit, because if you're listening, meetup.com, we need to be able to send images, because we run an art workshop that has to do a lot with visual. You got to be able to see what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And they're like, we get this whole website. Do you have to pay for it? It's not free. It's not cheap either, but you can't send images with your email. So Meetup, step your game up. But apparently they also have business workshops and hiking clubs. They have everything.
They have everything, right?
They should be able to send pictures in the email.
No, I didn't even
It's
know.
2024.
Yeah.
Meet up. Step up. Call Jill back. Email Jill back. All right. Rant.
Love it.
So, did you? I used to be in when I first came to California. I too had to I came out here with the idea that I was going to be an artist, and my other self was like, "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It's going to be tough upon a landing. We're going to have a side gig or something."
Totally, yeah.
And so I was a personal trainer, but I approached it immediately with entrepreneurship. So I was like, if I can do this for personal training, which is not even what I really want to do, I want to be a full-time artist. But it taught me all these lessons about how to network, because I was trying to get clients. And I used to go to Business Networking International. So BNI, and this was definitely before Meetup. I'm even sure if there was, I'm certain I had a flip phone, had business cards. But it was cool. It was a format, you go once a week. And it totally works for artists. What Nap was saying, I can give you testimony. At the time, I wasn't even trying to sell art, but even indirectly by promoting myself, just learning the skills of like, hi, I'm Jesse Fortune and this is Fortune Fitness.
Yeah.
You know, have you ever wanted to borrow? You had the elevator pitch, but you get to do it.
You practice your communication skills.
Yeah, you get to practice it in front of other competent professionals and then see how they do it. Somebody might have been doing it for years. They're an accountant, but their pitch is smooth. You're like, I like that.
Yep.
And then by doing that, by the time you end up getting to talk about your art, which I was passionate about trading for sure, but my art's my everything. Then it's super easy because you're like talking about yourself, talking about your soul, you know. And then like you already got the elevator pitch down from selling gadgets or widgets or science or the maths or whatever it was. So what was your group called? Your meetup group? Is it just random ones?
Ultimate Business Networking, and that one meets at the Country Club down here on
UBN,
17th Street.
whoa.
UBN, and that one's free too, which is pretty awesome.
And you have like
And for those who are confused by those two statements, the Country Club is the name of a restaurant.
Yeah, they have good happy hour.
Not a literal
Mesa
golf course.
Verde Country Club, which also is right down the street.
Oh, really? I didn't even know that.
And Costa Mesa Public Country Club golf course kind of thing.
All fine establishments.
Very
fun,
much
yeah.
so. But you're talking about Country Club happy
The
hour.
restaurant, yeah, their happy hour's good. So
Shout out to Mario.
Nice.
And Country Club and all the other.
They got killer espresso martini there.
Their
For
cocktails are
anybody local,
good. Their
yeah.
food is really good. Their burger's amazing. Their happy hour burger, oh my god.
So now that you're doing this for your art, and it obviously worked. I saw the results from going to this. It's a good lesson, like you said, to other artists that are trying to transfer into like hobbyists, or a lot of people come here because they've graduated from their kitchen table or their garage with a TV or
Exactly.
garage TV, which not everybody has.
Yeah.
Or a garage refrigerator, which is also a baller.
Yeah.
But people graduate from that. I did. My first studio in California was in my garage. And then people come to 1980 because they're like, just by, not just a rent or just being in, but like when you pay for something, you pay for jackets, it's $15. You pay for a jacket, it's $1,500. You immediately like, the $1,500 is like, you know, you put it on the hanger, you know, you don't throw it in the trunk or whatever when you get done. And same thing with an art studio. Instead of the garage, you know, the exercise bike right there, it's holding clothes. You know, you may or may not paint. Now you're doing laundry. The puppy's in the way. It's a baby. It's not your baby. It's weird.
Yeah.
So instead of that, you get to go to your art studio. And now that you're paying for it, you're like, I'm coming to work. And there's other artists and you're doing the work.
Oh, it's so great.
But we also learned that by doing that, you're learning from how to market, you know, how to, so you don't just have the space, you're not just making it work, but the next lesson is like, all right, now I have the work, how do I share it?
Yeah.
And it's not always here. We're not, you know, every show we have, not everybody's in. So you got to get out of here and go places and throw it up. I mean, there's one time I had a piece of work in like most coffee shops that were in my near vicinity. I was just like, it's a kind of a good in, you know, sometimes restaurants weren't the spot because like people just see it on the wall and expect it to change, or it's just background. It's like decoration.
It is.
But at a coffee shop, it's where people talk about it.
Yeah.
Or I'd go to said coffee shop and be like, hey, what do you think of the work?
Yeah.
And it's just bulldoze them like, that's my work. And then people would be like, that's dope, you know, like I'm local, or they already know you from there. So it is like your earlier statement, it is pretty organic, you know, because you're there to talk about work, but they might like it genuinely, obviously. So
And the thing is repetition, right? So that workshop we're talking about, are there people there from those networking events? That's not just because I met them once. It's because I continued to show up over a period of 3 to 4 months. And they started remembering me and recognizing me. I'm like, oh yeah, you're an artist. So as long as you stay top of mind, you're always, and like making those touch points, that's how you're going to come out on top, at least.
So could you tell me a little bit more about your actual pitch in that context where you're meeting these folks, you're going to this recurrent event? How does that conversation start? How does it go?
Yeah, it's just a basic, it's like we're talking about the elevator pitch, right? So it's like, what do you do? I'm an artist, former corporate zombie turned full-time abstract artist. Have you heard of Location 1980? We're right up the street, pitching you guys, pitching us always, because we're a community. Like if you're looking for some creative outlet, a lot of people don't even know we exist here. So I'm like, you need to come check us out. We have figure drawing, we have workshops.
We have a podcast.
We have a podcast now, right? But in terms of a lot of people that you meet on the street that aren't already art collectors and don't understand that, from my perspective, it's like talking to them from the ground up, right?
Sure.
So they're not going to immediately meet you and be like, oh, I want that $1,500 painting because it's gorgeous. They don't understand that. That's a price point you have to work up towards. So a lot of introductory like products, it's going to be a print, or in this case, a workshop, right? You can drop like $60 for a workshop. It's an experience. You can bring your friends. You're going to be talking about it, right?
That way you
It's a
get
good
them on the
entry
property.
point.
They've experienced it. Now the door is cracked open.
Exactly. So that's a warm lead now, right?
Great elevator pitch, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, 1980, it's where it's at. If you haven't been here yet, what are you waiting for?
Well, also, too, just what you're saying is not just by meeting fresh leads and warm leads, but also like you're offering something genuinely just like helping you're scaling down like this untouchable piece of work of art into an experience that you're
building a brand.
Yeah, they're also, but for the customer's point of view, that they're actually part of your brand is that like she was right. I had fun. That was cool. It's sweet. So then that connection is like pretty solid because like you went from saying hi to elevator pitch to here's a workshop in this cool spot, other artists, and they got to experience participating in said creations, and yeah, maybe down the road they're in a place where somebody's like, man, I really wish I had this piece of architectural abstract Indian influenced artwork. Oh, Napa Go-Go. She's the one.
There you go. Top of mind.
Yeah.
Top of mind, yeah.
And that might take, and I've had it happen for me, like 10 years before
it takes years.
Leads pan out. And all of a sudden, when it comes, it's just like, absolutely, I remember you from this one time, but now we're married and we moved in, we got this new house and we want your work right here. And it's like, what? And I'm like, wait, how did we meet again?
Yeah.
We're at the elevator pitch at Country Club.
Yeah, because we're practicing your networking skills, right? So that's the other thing. A lot of artists, and we're talking, going back to artists being business owners and business people, right? So you're saying there's long timelines. Absolutely. Like one of the girls who came for the workshop, she brought her daughter and her husband, and it took her a year to push on that. Like I met her a year ago, and then she finally was like, hey, we had a really good interaction, I'm remembering, but then those 3 tickets turned into, she's like, I want a painting. So that turned into a commission, and then 3 tickets. But it took a year of nurturing that relationship.
Yeah, and which I mean, you're doing it because you love it, you're good at it, but just the business part of it, like it's going to take, if anything's going to blow up, and plus it gives it sustainability because this is a daily activity now. Your pipeline is a few years old and you're always doing it. So there's no matter what, you either got some new relationship that you may have just found, or someone that you met previously but you stayed in front of them, or you just kept doing what you're doing to where like when it's their time to come back into the circle, you're like, guess what? I have 300 pieces in my inventory, or all these different products, small little 4x4s, or did you just have was it stickers or what was it?
Stickers, yeah.
Those are fire, yeah, definitely. I want one of those.
I have some in my car. I'll grab you guys some.
Excellent. And it sounds like too, between us, maybe the next workshop at 1980 could be artist networking 101.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Would you be down to co-host with me?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's do it.
You heard it here first on the Location 1980 Art Podcast. What else we got for Napa? What do you do? This year we're coming up on our annual holiday art show, which is pretty big. You've been successful at it yourself, and been a big part of helping us market it and bring other people here. So we'll have stuff for that. But then like going into 2025, like what do you think? What do you look forward to doing?
So I'm really excited about, we talked about post-India influences. I'm really excited with the trajectory of that. So I want to take that as to the next level, basically. So we're starting off with paintings. We have some small paintings over there. We have big paintings. Eventually, I want to do the traditional like fine art route. I want to do like mini wall sculptures next. So we have Eric here, who's another resident artist, and not this Eric Creeder? Eric C. So it's when he had first moved in, we were talking about doing like resin sculptures. So that's what he's doing right now. He's doing the clay sculpture work. And that's the
really
other
cool
thing.
Animal faces.
And then he cures it with resin. So I had that idea like a few months ago, but he was so like adamant about it. I'm like, I'm gonna let you figure it out, and then once you figure it out, let me know. And he's like, absolutely. And
he is figuring it out.
He's figuring it out. He's doing a bang up job.
They're incredible.
Yeah, they're really neat images.
Yeah, and that's
little micro sculptures. They're like bas relief.
They're so cool. He's
a little bit, but they're hyper exaggerated, and they're all these so gnarly
detailed,
animals that are like blowfish and stuff. They're like super fierce, ferocious looking, and then he's really exaggerating. You know, it's almost
like a snapping turtle, and the mouth is zooming in, and like a hippo.
It's kind of like those action comics from like the 60s and 70s with like super ferocious like tigers and stuff. It's like that kind of energy.
So you found by networking, or that kind of just all of us here kind of bump shoulders and talk about our aesthetic.
Oh, I love that.
Do you think when he's doing there, you'll be able to apply some of those techniques or methodologies?
Exactly. So that was our thinking. So that's the other beautiful thing about finding artist community is you bounce ideas off each other all the time. Like those little pieces I did, Michelle actually helped me like figure out how I'm going to finish them, which was really cool. I never would have thought of it. And Eric's the same way. But the thing about like letting other people figure it out, he's going to figure it out and be so efficient that by the time he's ready, and I'll be ready to start doing like relief sculptures with resin, doing architectural Indian patterns, he's going to be like, this is what you got to do. Because that's what we do in the artist community, you help each other out. Yeah.
That's great. So you look forward to like maybe that would be like technically an installation. Is that something
taking it more 3D,
something that would be for, I guess the end result you'd want it to be in someone's home, but it might be something where you get a debut in like a gallery setting or an installation piece. Sometimes things are so wild that people don't know, like the avocado disco ball, like they love it, but they're like,
they don't know what to do with it.
You got to paint the picture like this is gonna bomb in your man cave or whatever. You gotta really kind of let them know. Like, you don't even have.
They want to get to the other side of the gorge, but they don't really know how. You got to help build the bridge for them a bit.
They don't know what they don't know. You got to help them with what they don't know.
Well, that is. I'm glad you articulate that because that is such a key, and you obviously know this too with so much experience, and that's something that I and probably a lot of the folks here at 1980 are learning is how critical that element is, and that
the
storytelling, exactly. And this is the greatest brand builders alive today say that same thing. They go, the number one skill that differentiates winners from losers, contenders from nothings in this business, in any business, is capacity to be a great storyteller.
Oh, yeah.
How you do that.
Amen. Yeah.
I think that you're going to need to work on that story because I can imagine, like, just I'm trying to envision what you might come up with and seeing something like that on the wall where people are like, that is dope. It's kind of a little bit like your Sinatra piece where people are like, I have no idea. Like, where does it go? Or like, can we buy it? Or how do you move it? How do you ship it? But it's interesting. I'm already intrigued.
It's gonna start small scale though. Sure. Like maybe like mini sculptures, So it'll be like a collectible item maybe.
I like the idea of, and I can't tell what they are yet, but from what you've said, I'm imagining how sweet it would be to have a wall, an array of like 200 of them, and then lit from behind like they were transparent or translucent or something. Yeah.
Some type of resin element fused with like a stone element from architectural influences, so maybe plaster something. I don't know.
Ooh, past meets future. DC meets AD.
Yep.
Multimedia 3D. I love it. That's cool. Well, thanks for coming in, Napa. And what we like to do towards the end of the episode is kind of, we talked about all the serious stuff and your travels and real inspiration and business acumen and marketing and networking, but now we're going to break it down into just some fun, silly stuff. And we're going to start off with the black cock that's right here. You guys may, for those of you only listening,
You must tune into the video now.
I'm holding a little bitty big black cock. And when I say cock, I mean caulk stopper. Could you tell us more about this caulk stopper? It's actually shaped like a penis and testicles, and it's black.
And it's black. It is it's an itty bitty big black cock.
Stopper.
Cock stopper. So this is really funny. This is a 3D printed work of art by resident 3D printer artist extraordinary, David.
We'll go with David.
David.
He's the only man I know that has a dedicated 3D printing room.
Oh, it's amazing.
In his house.
And also
amazing.
Doubles as our in-house photographer for live events.
Very talented young man. So basically what happened was I go through caulking guns, but usually when I open one, it's to build my mini aluminum frames. So to glue the wood in the back, but I don't use it all in one go. So usually the next time in between the period, the tip seals up.
And it could freeze and ruin the whole too.
Oh, totally. So then
And you don't have a construction background.
I don't have I worked in construction companies, but I never was in the field, sawing and caulking. Exactly. So I would just hack the tip off until I got to the fresh ooze, the goo, the good stuff, right? So then I'm like, there's got to be a better way. I was in the studio and I absolutely mangled the tip. It looked absolutely atrocious, and I put it on Threads, and it went viral in the worst possible way. People were like, did you get hungry? Did you gnaw it off? Like, what's wrong with you? Why would you open a caulking gun that way?
I've never seen a girl mangle a tip like that.
Like, do you even know what you're doing? So I got absolutely dragged, rightfully so, right? It was hilarious. The thing got like 500 comments, and it was just insane. And I cried a little bit, but in a good way. No, it was great.
But you also shared this story with us.
I did, and I was laughing so hard, and someone had put like a little, I guess you can buy tiny little silicone actual cocks for the caulking guns, and someone had put a photo of it, and I was at David and Jill's house, and I was showing David the thread, and he was like, I could 3D print one for you. I was like, what? Come on. So then Jesse was there, and then he did the initial dynamic sketch-ups of what the 3D cock for the caulking gun would look like.
Not just what it would look like, but what it had to do. I mean, we can't go that far. We can't go that far because I have worked on construction projects and I have used the caulk gun properly several times. And usually you use like a big 10 penny nail or whatever, nail work or a 3-inch screw. And they'll do the same job, but not as much style or finesse as a giant black caulk stopper. So I did a decent job drawing it, and then within, I think it must have been less than a week, Jill showed up and was just like, "Here you go." And David went to work in his 3D printing room, that's awesome. That's a whole nother story, and he might be a guest too. But he came out with something that was both effective and I guess aesthetically
beautiful and functional.
If you guys could see this, there's actually little veins on it, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's like little ridging.
Well, they're not that little.
Let's
be real here. So that's one thing.
Well, but that's the thing is they just hint at it. It's not like a Looney Tune, like extremely.
It's very subtle. Yep.
So that's going to start our comic relief portion of the end of the art podcast. But we do.
Well, talking about functionality, the testes give you leverage to remove it when you're ready for the next session.
Exactly.
Yeah, party in a bottle.
There you go.
Something like that. So we like to do a little bit of rapid fire. So you're either in or out, or A or B between the choices.
Okay.
So like
To warm you up. Beatles or Stones?
Beatles.
And I'll go.
That's the Ravi Shankar talking.
There you go. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Traditional Eastern Indian wife or American raised girl.
American raised girl.
Okay. Eric.
Aisle seat or window seat?
Aisle seat.
Really? Yeah.
I'm an aisle seater because I think there's a good payoff You gotta take it in the elbow every once in a while, but you're free. You can get up. It's more.
I can put my legs like this a little bit, like in between drink service, you know.
I was gonna say, don't fall asleep like that or clank clank.
I know, right? Sever a toe that way. Whew.
Perfect. So nowadays in the non-dry states, we're actually all doing Sober October, or at least I could say me and Eric, my co-host, are doing Sober October. If we were drinking, we usually do whiskey while we're doing the podcast, at least a taste. Would you do, let's see, like
bourbon or rye?
Cognac or...
Rye.
Okay. Rye or scotch?
Scotch, huh?
Scotch or Japanese?
Japanese, huh?
Oh, okay.
Nice. And I was going to go with like a beer or seltzer.
Seltzer.
Yeah. And traditional garb or like pajamas.
Pajamas all the way. Oh, man.
You didn't make the last movie night, but I went pajamas. And somebody's like, should we wear pajamas? I'm like, yeah, it's a movie night.
Movie night, duh.
What else will we do? Our next movie night's going to actually have
That's the Halloween
encouraged
theme.
costumes.
Oh my god.
Pumpkin carving contest.
Wait, when is that?
Jill.
That's the 24th.
24th.
Okay.
It's a week and a half.
October.
Okay, perfect. Oh, it's Thursday.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's going to be fun. Can you make it?
Yes.
Think about your costume.
I have a Halloween mixer happy hour at work, and then after I'll come right after.
Yeah. Also think about your pumpkin carving skills because you're not going to win.
I don't think I've ever carved a pumpkin. This will be good practice.
Dude, you're about to be around a bunch of A-listers.
It's go time. I always think mine's going to be good, and I never win. I mean, it's usually pretty decent, but like
The thing, it always is good. It's not that he doesn't win because he messes it up. It's that he doesn't win because there's so much good
There's some wild
stuff.
shit. There's some wild
Some of the
stuff.
entries, dude, are unconceivable. Like with soy, dude.
Oh my god.
Yeah, this is like, I think this third or fourth year. And there's always also people who are just like, whatever, triangle, smile, you know.
The
and
classic
which is also-
jack-o'-lantern,
Yeah, you know. But, or, egg in a house or toilet paper in the trees.
Toilet paper in the trees because I egged a house once and I got caught in middle school and we had to clean it up. It was very embarrassing.
Everybody knew.
They had a party too at the house. And the girl I went with, she told me there was no one home. It was a guy that was bullying her. So I was like, okay, I'll go with you. And then we egged the house. And then a bunch of kids came out because it was a party sleepover. And yeah, we had to get on our knees and
Damn.
scrub their garage door. Yeah. It was very
This is a garage door. It's not too bad. Right on. Any other technical aspects you'd like to leave us with as far as your studio right now? I mean, we realize there's a small black caulk stopper. But what other technical things do you like? What's your favorite tool? We ask you what we asked Rishi. So I bet you actually do have one. But on your Amazon wish list, if somebody says, I'm going to get you this art thing or tool that's going to be whatever you want, what would it be?
Would be the X-Acto blade replacement tips.
Oh,
Never cut with a dull blade. Oh my god.
who would?
Amen.
People do that?
Yeah, cut yourself.
Yeah,
You would
it's
not
just-
believe some of the people that listen to this podcast that you're not on the level yet. We're training them up here.
I love it. Let's go. Well, with that, I want to say thank you for coming on, Napa, and tell the people how, if they did want to come to one of your workshops or see your original artworks or some of your very funny videos, where would they go to see your Threads account or your Instagram?
Yeah, so my Instagram handle is at napa.gogo.art. And if you want to come by for a studio tour appointment, you can schedule Jillian or myself. Just simply send me a DM.
Sounds good to us. Well, with that, I'd like to say thanks. Thanks for everybody for watching or listening, whatever you're doing out there.
I'm only thanking the watchers.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we've had a shift. I think watching it's going to be the way to go in the future, especially when we go to our new set. But this set's not bad. I mean, we do have a disco ball avocado. Well, thanks everybody for watching and listening and supporting your local artists, including all of us in this room. Location 1980s, our podcast. For myself, Jesse Fortune, my co-host Eric Ringman, and our special guest Napa. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Cheers.
Good night.
Bye.